Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great conversation sponsored by the Jason Howell Company. My name is Jason Howell, and today we've got an amazing guest for conversation, Mr. Scott Buss. What is a concierge, and who is the ultimate concierge? Well, that's the guy we've got right here to my left or your right, depending on how you're seeing this. But one of the things I want to do before we get into all of the Q&A with him about concierge services, how they can be used, how they're best used, the ultimate kinds of services to work with and work to try to receive. Let's just meet Scott. And so, Scott, how has your day been? And tell us about the crazy day you have planned for yourself today.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Jason. Every day I wake up, I'm blessed, so I appreciate that. Obviously, in the concierge jet business and satisfying helping good people, it's always a busy day, which I'm thankful for because it could be a day that you just don't know. So every day is a challenge, but as long as you have the bandwidth and time management and you handle people with trust and transparency, along with follow-up actions that proves the trust and transparency, every day is a good day.
Sounds like the kind of person I'd like to work with, that's for sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and you didn't tell the folks who will see this in infamy over the years that you've got about five of these today. So thank you for being here and just being a part of sharing your version and your vision and your light for everything that I'd like to do as a financial advisor with clients and the people that are watching this, everything they want to do when they think, I don't know what a concierge is, and I'd like to learn a heck of a lot more. So
Sure, sure. I
we're going to
appreciate
do
you
that.
having me.
Well, super. Let me switch over to the screen so people can get a nice little look of your photo here. And if you came to the Ultimate Concierge, which I'm sure you did on purpose, then you've kind of come to the right production, the right conversation. I was very lucky to meet Scott maybe a handful of years ago, and he's been very kind and generous with his relationships and with his insights. And so I'm really happy to have him. One of the things I like to do is just say a few minutes about our firm, the Jason Howell Company, which is the sponsor of this conversation. We're a family wealth management firm based in Virginia, but working with clients nationwide. And what we like to do is facilitate those conversations in and around wealth that are pretty difficult for people, especially first generation wealthy folks who didn't grow up with this and don't know what to do with their family and the next generation. We come in, navigate those conversations, make it make sense for them and the people that they care about. So for more about Jason Howell Company, you can always just go to jasonhowell.com. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about Scott. After all, he came all this way. Advanced Jets is a great company, but Scott, I think you've had a history of working with high net worth folks internationally. Tell us about what that's been like for you.
Thank you, Jason. Been amazing. Basically, I give all the glory to Jesus and God as my Savior, as working with like-minded people, no matter what somebody looks like or how many zeros you have in your bank account. I treat them with trust, transparency, and respect. And I think that's why have allowed me to work with some unique individuals, families, different agencies, organizations, and it's every day is a different day, and I really enjoy it. I have about 20 years in the mortgage business at a very high level, and so I kind of just swifted over to kind of what was in my wheelhouse when had personal friends and relationships that were asking for certain requests or needs behind the scenes, and kind of that's how Advent Jets kind of got formed in 2018, 2019.
And what I keep hearing you talk about as you present is this idea about relationships. And even in your bio, you talk about building solid relationships. What do relationships mean to you, both professionally and personally?
That's a great question. I think the world that we're in a relationship world. No matter who you're talking to, if it's a client, friend, business, you have to treat it as people buy people, right? No matter what the price is or what you're buying, people have to have that trust. Trust is misused because a lot of times people say trust and transparency. But what I like to do with the trust, and you can relate to this and obviously speak of it, when I work with like-minded people, my trust is actions, meaning if I'm going to say I'm going to introduce you to somebody or I have somebody in my network that I feel that I can help you monetize relationships for a win-win, your family, that's what trust means to me. Because there's a lot of people out there that say trust, but they don't really follow through with that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that. Well, beyond business, you also volunteer, and there are a couple items in places where you volunteered over the years, but I think you're still volunteering for this SAVE organization. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Yes, SAVE is suicide awareness. The doctor that founded that is out of Minnesota. Personally, in '91, I lost my best friend to suicide. Back then, we didn't have cell phones and things like that, so it was a little bit different world.
Yeah.
And so, dealing with that back in that day, it always stuck with me. And I always told Randy that and his family that I would live on in, in memory of him and be part of that. I also believe in working with our veterans, domestic abuse, cancer foundation. So I believe that when God blesses you, you can bless other people. It doesn't always have to be financially. It could be, helping out or doing this or doing that. So thanks for bringing that up. But suicide is one thing that I'm obviously with military and PTSD, and more people are unfortunately doing it.
Well, let's dedicate this episode to Randy. Let's
I
keep that
appreciate that.
alive.
Means a lot.
91,
Thank you.
great year. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Well, with that, knowing that you have such a busy schedule today, let's get to some of the Q&A, some of the basics that people just don't know when it comes to these services. And I'll keep this up on the screen for a few seconds so people can see the questions, but then I'll take it down so we can get a closer look at what you're saying. The first
Sure.
big broad question is really, Scott, what is a concierge?
And it's a great question because I think it's a word that's used very widely these days. Concierge, a lifestyle architect and trusted problem solver, basically come to me with an issue and I try to solve it for you, if it's travel or if it's logistics or if it's whatever it may be. Advent is more than just errands. It's a full spectrum luxury jet security events, wellness, rare sourcing if it's jewelry, diamonds, whatever it may be at a very high level, off market real estate. Then we design who value time, privacy, and peace of mind. With that, I built my business with no public PR really or paid advertising. It's all been referrals and word of mouth. And I think that speaks volume of not just me, but the people that believe in me. And so that's kind of my three bullet points of what a question of the concierge is.
And so when you say that too, I heard again relationships and how you built it on there, but it sounds like it's much more than just jets. Even though that's in the name, it sounds like it's well beyond I need a flight to such and such a private flight.
Yes, correct. We handle so much more than just flights. If it's hotel, villas, you need a nanny, you need tutoring, you want a custom suit, so whatever it may be, you want to buy luxury goods, off market real estate, you need a lawyer in 120 different countries. I have access to some very unique um, organizations and owners and assets out there. So I like to be a one stop. Everyone says a one stop, but for luxury, obviously, like yourself, when you work with high net worth people, it's trust, but who you can back up. And that's why we've known each other a handful of years and we've always had good communication on and off email and personal and things like that. That's just how I work.
And when I got off the phone with you the first time, I remember feeling like I had access to superpowers. There was just something about you and the confidence, absolutely, but also like the range of services. It made me open up my imagination somewhat. So I thank you for being that person that I feel like allows me to have some of that superpower. What are the most appropriate services for people to think of entrusting to a concierge versus any one of the other players in their lives?
Yeah, jet charters, villas, yachts, special events, Super Bowl, Formula One, VIP access. We also do a lot of emergency requests like medical flights, uh,
Interesting.
which is we do some organ donor, or if somebody say I had a client that was in Mexico and they needed to get to the US in a hospital. So people don't think about air medical. So we also do that. We also do help with staffing. We also do cargo in teams. For instance, if it's a team or you have luxury art or gold or things that you need boots on the ground and executive protection that can transport things. So we have capabilities of pretty much doing anything you need.
Yeah, I'm hearing so many different executive protection, certainly all the things associated with travel, including what could be healthcare if people need to be medevaced. somewhere
Yes.
else. So
Yes.
you're right. Most people don't think about whether their Kaiser insurance or their Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to get them out of Mexico or wherever they are.
Yep. Correct.
Thankful. That's really helpful. Tell us a little bit about how you work with wealth advisors. I'm a wealth advisor. I like having access to superpowers personally, but I also like having it for the benefit of my clients. And so, how does that work in your business?
Well, I appreciate you calling me a superpower, but it's from the Lord above, and it's just when you work with like-minded people, it's how do you monetize these relationships? We're an extension, we're a value of you. When you have that trust and you can back it up, we're your name, your company, your reputation is on the line. So you have to work with those kind of people that you trust. We handle lifestyle needs while protecting their client relationship. Everything has to be, if it's an NDA, obviously some people want to be under NDA. Some people say NDAs don't mean anything. It all depends on the relationship, right?
Yeah,
In collaboration, not competition. And that's just how I believe it. It's your client, and then I'm going to service your client. And how do we best serve your client that we work together as a team?
interesting. Have you ever been surprised by how that relationship could work, both either for the negative or the positive when working with advisors and on behalf of clients?
It yes and no, because sometimes people like to think they know all and go behind their relationships back sometimes and recircumvent. And I think that's just life.
Yeah.
But with me, I believe in communication, and there's a story behind that we can get into in another time. But I'm always going to communicate because, Jason, when you come to me for a client that needs air, obviously I work with you and say, hey, this is what our options are. What do you think is best to present? Because if I just present, we're doing a disservice. And
Yeah.
so I like to be involved with the relationships that I work with.
You've mentioned your faith a couple of times, and I think
Yep.
it's great to have a center and a foundation. Tell us a little bit about how your faith has driven your work. People who combine that tend to get really amazing results.
Sure. I won't get into the real story, but we can do that some other time. But in 2018, I kind of hit rock bottom, and that's when I started Advent Jets. And I was brought up Catholic, but I'm more non-dominational. And what I realized when I hit rock bottom, all my life, God was building this business.
Mm,
And because he was building these relationships that I didn't know. Most people, when they build a business, they have to go acquire clients, contacts, and
yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I had some of this, not a lot, but 2018, 2019, I just kind of put it on steroids, and God's blessed me to monetize. And I always say people are limited, God is unlimited. I don't preach. I just think today in the world, we need more faith. And since I've had a great relationship and pray and do what I do, what works best for me, I've been successful in staying away from the toxic. And so it works for me. Everybody has what they want.
No, well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that and being
Yes, you're
being
welcome.
open enough to share that. So tell us about some of the maybe most fun or interesting things that you've been able to source on behalf of clients over the years.
Sure. I'll tell you kind of not a funny one, but I had a client from California to Costa Rica. They had their nanny fly with three dogs, and it was just a one-way flight because they were already in Costa Rica and they wanted their animals. So that was kind of an unusual request. But I've had people take birds, dogs, I mean, cats. I mean, they're obviously it's different than commercial, right?
Yeah.
But I would say that a couple of the good things that I really enjoy, I mean, I enjoy all, is helping with urgent medical flights, showing it's not just luxury, but it's also care.
Yeah.
I've worked with some nonprofits, ex-military, to help with efforts in Haiti, Afghanistan.
Wow.
I'm not the heroes. Those people are the heroes, and they're backed by big organizations. But sometimes I think the government doesn't get involved with some of these nonprofits, and that's why a lot of them are former special forces, Green Berets, whatever they may be, and work with some of them. If it's called KNR, kidnap and ransom missions, and things like that. So there's a lot of things that people just don't think about that really can go on behind the scenes that I have access to around the world with the right people.
So from what I'm hearing, if someone is working with you, either be through an advisor or directly, and there is such an emergency, that's part and parcel of what you have access to. Obviously, there are costs involved, but you can essentially get things done.
Yes, correct. Where if it's executive protection, threat assessment, bodyguard, whatever it may be, I also have a car service that offers armed and unarmed drivers. Um, in the world that we're in, we're not trying to, we just don't know what's out there, and you just don't know. Like, I consider myself a threat assessment sometimes because of my data of the people that I know. So I'm
Yes.
very private where and when I go. I don't really post. I'm pretty private that way because you just don't know, unless what intentions are. So I take that. Yeah, if someone's not going to fly private and they have a security question or something that I can help them and point them in the right direction, that's winning for me.
Yeah, I heard recently in the news about people being kidnapped just for their crypto lockers
Yep.
and, because they're posting their balances online and doing those kinds of things which are silly and you know them to be silly. You wouldn't put your bank account online, but when there's a different category, i.e. in this case digital assets, you think it's a fun game, but it can be serious, can't it?
Yes. Yeah. And I've seen it because of the business that I've been in and things that I've seen. And it's, you have to think differently. And, even when you go out for dinner and stuff, I think I'm more like my head not on a swivel, but you just have to pay attention to your surroundings a lot more and think of what you do. They always say, don't post something that you don't want on the front page of a magazine or a newspaper. And
Right.
so
Right. Well, Scott, as we wind down a little bit here, tell us about your thoughts regarding the future of, can I call it an industry, concierge services? Of course, AI is always hovering over all of us, financial advisors, everyone who is serving clients. How do you see potentially artificial intelligence technology enhancing what you do? And how do you see the future of what you do continuing over the next 10, 20 years?
Great question. I think AI, and I'm not a tech guru. I have relationships that are. I still believe in the relationships, the hand holding. Excuse me.
Sure.
AI is going to be great and allow certain things to do for busy people, like maybe executive assistants that want to do some things, or people that are very friendly with doing things automated and things like that. But having a relationship with a company like mine and an organization that has a concierge staff and a charter staff, it's obviously 24/7 to have somebody available is always nice to have a live voice to talk to sometimes.
Yeah, I think that is important and a difficult thing to replace. Though there is AI voice in case people want
Yep.
that. I've certainly
There's
seen that.
AI everything, I think, Jason.
Yeah, yeah, there is. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, and let me turn that question actually around. Your
Okay.
preference, do you prefer to work through advisors and other strategic partners for families and clients, or do you also take a blend of families coming directly to you and you having that direct relationship?
It's a great question. I'm not one to turn away good relationships.
Probably not.
And no matter what it is, like I said, I have people that don't fly private, but they use me for other kind of services because they came from a referral source.
Okay.
However, we have to attack that. If it doesn't matter if it's a family office, if it's somebody like yourself, Jason, with your strong organization that you've built.
Thank you.
It's referrals, basically. That's how I built my brand and my business. And,
Yes.
and I think you've built it with trust with that way as well.
Yeah, all of the clients that we have, you look at them and say, all right, let me look at my biggest clients. Where'd they come from? And you're like, oh, those are all relationships. Okay. And then
Yeah.
you go past that top 10, you're like, actually, so is that one. So is that one. And nearly every single client is from relationships.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you spent some time with us, Scott. If you were to leave us with a nugget, something that we can post out there as a line to say, if you don't watch the whole darn thing, this is something to really latch onto. What would that be in regards to concierge services, perhaps in particular to your services?
Yeah, I always say it's about trust, access, peace of mind. Whether you're flying private, booking something extraordinary, or just someone you can rely on, we're here to deliver. If you're a wealth advisor, brand, or someone who values elevated service, let's connect. Remember, it's not about how fast you move, but who you move with. And so, Jason, I wanted to say with that, thanks for having me.
No, and thank you for being here. And with that, we yield the balance of everyone's time.